sources of income.
All right, let's talk matters banking now. As banking customers move to the digital spaces, banks have been forced to adapt. But just what more could be done? I spoke to Stanbic head of digital banking, and that is Victor Odada, on the bank's preparedness for interoperability and as the world moves to open banking. I started by asking him how banks are integrating digital tools in their day-to-day operations.
The landscape has drastically changed. We had a pretty siloed approach in terms of offering to our customers. And it was not customer-centric. It was more, if you want to call it, it was bank-centric. So you use the channel based on the bank, what the bank felt like offering. Now our offerings are more customer-centric in terms of orchestration. So you find a situation where the customer is being given a lot more power from the perspective of even onboarding themselves. Before, you had to be onboarded by the bank and use our digital channels. Now you can literally click on the link, onboard your documents, and within 5 to 10 minutes you've opened a bank account and you have your credentials without human intervention. Obviously this is through partnerships with the likes of IPRS, the government, in terms of for identities, being able to allow even using new technology like OCR to be able to then take live images, scan like for example IDs, passports, to allow us to be able to digitally open an account. So in the last 5 years we moved more in terms of empowering customers more and more in terms of taking control of their banking capability. We've allowed, before you had to call the bank to get for example, an FX rate. Sorry, that's a foreign exchange rate. Now it's available on the channel. You're able to go in. We have a solution called eMarket Trader. Put in your request, get a rate, and transact.
We're talking about cross-border transactions at the moment, and this is quite a big thing. So how then can we harness this digital banking technology to be able to make that easy for customers?
The vision we have as Stanbic Bank and Standard Bank is to be able to offer what we call blue-on-blue transactions, which means as long as you're part of the if you want to call it our footprint, you should be able to transact whether your account is in South Africa, you're in Kenya, you're in Uganda, you're in Nigeria. Eventually that is the vision that we're going for. And to add to the same, if you understand from a global perspective, open banking is becoming a big play. And that's one of the few things Standard Bank, as Stanbic Bank in Kenya, are looking to harness. Because you want a situation where, to your point, with the data I have in Kenya, I'm able to showcase the fact that I can transact even in South Africa, as long as I'm able to meet the requirements and provide, if you want to call the KYC, effectively. So yeah.
How do we use digital platforms and digital banking to push customer numbers?
In the world we're in right now, everybody wants to be able to do everything on their phone or at the point of convenience, be it a laptop, be it an iPad, be it a mobile phone. So banking needs to move away from the physical, which is something that as Stanbic Bank we have embraced. So we have provided most of our capabilities on digital platforms. We are harnessing more and more, introducing more and more features, so that what we'd love to have is eventually, if we can have our branches turn into experience centers, where if there's a specific experience you want to be able to have, that's where you go for the experience. But when it comes to just normal day-to-day transaction, you should be able to do it on any of our channels, including ATMs. And we've also, I'm sure you've also seen the introduction of our CDMs even in branches.
So, looking at these platforms, how then do we use the data that comes from this platform to be able to price based on risk?
I think that's a good question. So one of the major products we've introduced in the market is actually our digital loans. It's one, if you asked earlier, some of the things that are driving our digital penetration utilization is the fact that now you can actually apply for your loan wherever you are. As long as you are pre-scored and you have a limit, you can draw down. Okay, you can access the loan. Sorry, a lot of banks speak there. You can access the loan and transact. So when it comes to we proactively do score our customers because you take the data that you receive from the customer. One of the few things we are responsible for is to ensure that the data is used wisely. So we do get consent from customers. It is shared in advance. The customer must consent for us to be able to provide him the service. Like for example, provide him a limit. then the based on the new approvals we've gotten from from the regulator on risk-based pricing, we're able to then also, based on customers' data and transaction history, both on channel, physical, and also what we're receiving from partners where it's possible, be able to provide a competitive rate to our customers.
So what are some of the measures that you have put in place to ensure that my data as a customer is, number one, is safe, and at the same time it's private and safeguarded? Obviously, when it comes to what I'll call data privacy, I always say this: the data privacy starts with the customer. From a bank perspective, we employed as many of the, if you want to call it, the protocols and capabilities we have. So we include things like biometrics on our devices. We have device binding on our capabilities. We've worked with partners like Safaricom to ensure that there's SIM, SIM locking, so you cannot just transfer SIMs from without a notification to the customer and also to the bank that there's going to be a change. On a weekly basis, I'm sure you bank with us, you receive communication that tells you, I try to educate our customers in terms of trends. So don't share your PIN, but be careful about your surroundings. For example, even encouraging customers to, if you must go to certain places, do not carry your phone with you, because a lot of what we're seeing these days is social engineering. From a bank perspective, we've secured the platforms as best as possible. The customer's data is randomized. It is only used based on authorized, if you want to call it, transaction types that customer has approved. We are also looking to put in place a capability for customer to again be able to decide whether or not the information they've shared they can also be marketed to. It's just about being very responsible with the data that we receive from our customers. All right, and lastly, there's the question of just looking into the future. Of course, there's the question of partnership. There's the question of the outlook in terms of, again, technology is something that keeps changing and keeps evolving. So what are we looking at in the future?
The future for us is, and I love the fact that you use the word partnerships. It's about partnerships. A lot of interesting a fact many people don't realize, the source of revenue, a lot of the main source of revenue into M-Pesa is actually from banks. The future in banking is about open platforms. And that's why, like I said earlier on, it's about open banking, where it's about enabling the customer to be able to transact as and where they want. And the moment you give that power to the customer to transact, we all win. It's about an ecosystem that it's a win-win. So even in terms of our revenues, we've seen good revenue coming through. It's again through the partnerships that we've had in place. No one should ever say it's a fight between the two. No, it's a collaborative environment between ourselves, the telcos, and more partners that we're learning even in the regions. You'd be very surprised in terms of you've had sessions where you're with Visa, MasterCard, and Safaricom and Airtel in a room, co-creating to solve for the customer. So that is the future. That is the way forward. And obviously, as even shared by the former governor, open banking is coming to Africa. This will allow interoperability even between banking apps and MNO apps. So the future looks, if I could give an example, where within your Stanbic app, you'll be able to access your ABSA balance and your KCB balance and then transact seamlessly through the Stanbic app, even to buy, if you want to call it, commodities internationally or regionally, off one platform, and the same vice versa on the different platforms. That is the future. That's where we're going, and that's one of the few investments that Stanbic Bank and Standard Bank are we're looking into to ensure that we are ready for that next change.
All right, and of course, as and when that happens, all that interoperability will come into effect, we'll be here to tell you about it. Now, moving forward.